This video is sponsored by Ground News. It's drama once again in Germany, as Friedrich Merz's coalition simply cannot catch a break. And this time, it's all because of pensions. And to be honest, the core problem has been obvious for decades: demographics. Germany's pension system just simply doesn't work anymore. There are more and more retirees and fewer young people paying into the system. That's why, in this video, we're going to break down why this debate is getting so heated in Germany, then compare it to other European systems, and then look at the very one country that everyone keeps pointing to. Supposedly, it has the best pension system in the world. But first, a few numbers, because they really matter. Right now, one retiree is supported by just 2.1 workers. In the 1960s, that number was 6, and with the baby boomer generation retiring, it's just getting worse and worse. By 2030, it's only 1.5 workers per retiree, and by 2050, 1.3. Now, this is creating quite a big clash. The government has to keep pumping money into the pension system, more every year. In 2010, the state added 58 billion euros. Today, it's 134 billion euros, more than a quarter of the entire federal budget. And that number is only going up. And at the very same time, many retirees can barely live off what they get. The Renteniveau, the percentage of your old salary that you get in retirement, is at 48%. In 2024, the average pension was about 1,100 euros per month. And that really is not a lot. I mean, try living on that kind of money in a city like Munich. Now, let's move on to the latest political fight in the coalition, because this is very significant. The governing coalition wants to keep the 48% pension level stable until 2031. Everyone pretty much agrees on that part. But the big fight is, what happens after 2031? The current draft law says the pension level should even increase slightly after 2031, by about 1 percentage point. And the harshest criticism is coming from inside of the CDU itself. The Junge Union, the youth wing of Merz's own party. They're saying, no way, we won't support this, it's far too expensive and doesn't consider the interests of the youth. And they're honestly not wrong. Keeping the pension level at 48% after 2031 would cost an extra 15 billion euros every single year until 2040. And that's a bill that lands directly on us, the younger generation. And that's why the conservative Junge Union is now threatening to not vote for the reform in the Bundestag, basically the German parliament. And with Merz governing on a razor-thin majority, that should be enough to sink the entire bill. And that would be a massive humiliation, the kind of defeat that will really hurt the Chancellor's authority. So bad, in fact, that it could put the entire CDU-SPD coalition into question. So yeah, Germany definitely needs new ideas. But at the moment, there isn't a real solution on the table. And it's not just Germany. This is happening all over Europe. Pensions are becoming a problem because there simply aren't enough young people to pay the bill. Take France, for example. Macron pushed the pension age to 65 not that long ago. And now that reform has been suspended again after a parliament vote just last week. And what I find especially interesting is how differently the media frames all of this. Left-leaning outlets call the suspension a victory against a scandalous and unpopular reform. Right-leaning outlets say the exact opposite, calling it unforgivable and an abomination for the economy. That very contrast in framing, not from politicians but from the media, is exactly where our sponsor, Ground News, comes in. Their platform shows you how the same story is covered across the political spectrum, so you don't get trapped in a single narrative. You can even see the bias distribution, which in this case shows far more left-leaning outlets reporting on the French pension story than right-leaning ones. And if you scroll down, you get all of the articles: left, center, right, each with a factuality rating and ownership info. If you want to give it a try, you can get 40% off the Vantage plan using the link in the description or the QR code on the screen. Alright, back to the video. Now, we've talked a lot about Germany's pension problem, but how does Germany actually compare against the other countries around the world? To find out, we looked at the Mercer CFA Institute Global Pension Index. Yeah, it's quite a mouthful, but basically it rates pension systems on more than 50 indicators: how generous they are, how future-proof they are, and how much people can trust them. And unsurprisingly, for such a wealthy country, Germany does not shine. It sits at number 22 with a B grade. Some good features here and there, but nowhere near the A League. And speaking of the A League, only 5 countries make it. Number 1, the Netherlands, my very home country. So honestly, I might just have to move back there before my retirement hits. But let's have a look at why the Dutch system is actually so good. The Dutch retirement age is linked to life expectancy. So right now, it's at 67, and it will rise as people live longer. And the Netherlands doesn't rely on one pension. It has a 3-pillar system. Let's start with the backbone, or in other words, Pillar 1, the AOW, the Dutch state pension. The AOW is basically the, hey, you lived here, so you've earned it pension. You build it up just by living or working in the Netherlands. Every year between age 17 and retirement earns you 2%. So 50 years equals a full 100%. It's financed through national insurance contributions. But because the population is aging, the government now also tops it up with money from general taxation. This gives you a simple flat basic income completely independent of what you've earned during your entire career. So this means if you live alone, you get up to 1,612 euros a month. And if you live together with someone, that adds up to 1,130 euros per person. And that brings us to pillar number 2. And this is where the Dutch system really shines: the collective workplace pension. If you work in the Netherlands, you're almost always enrolled. About 90% of all workers, both you and your employer, pay in, usually around 15 to 25% of your salary, with employers covering roughly 2/3. Then all of that money is pooled together, which means pension funds can invest at massive scale, spread the risks, and keep costs super low. These funds are some of the biggest in the world, managing trillions of euros, and they're very, very tightly regulated. And thanks to the new pension law that will be rolled out by 2028, every participant now gets their own personal pension pot. That means you can actually see your own pot grow over time, with all of your contributions and investment returns clearly visible. Full transparency. But for obvious reasons, you can't simply cash out the entire pot when you retire. Instead, you get a steady lifelong income, not a one-off lump sum you could burn through in just a few years. And then we have the final pillar, pillar number 3, the voluntary private part of the system. Basically, if you want extra savings or you're self-employed, you can build your own pension pot through private products or investments, sometimes with tax benefits. For the majority of people, this is just a top-up because Pillar 1 and Pillar 2 already cover the basics and the bulk of their pension. So, that's the Netherlands for you. And as a retiree, you can expect an average pension of around 23,000 euros per person. Now, to put that into perspective, Germany's average pension sits at a measly 13,000 euros per person. That's only a bit over half of the Dutch amount. And honestly, it's outrageous. But it gets even wilder. In both countries, pension contributions no longer cover the costs. So the state budget has to fill the gap. In the Netherlands, the government tops it up with around 6% of its budget. And in Germany, just like we saw earlier, that number is closer to 27%. Yes, 27% for a pension that's only a fraction of the Dutch one. The numbers are really crazy and very, very painful. Here's what I think. I actually agree with the youth wing of the German CDU on this one. Pushing through such a weak pension reform is frankly quite silly. Germany really has its head firmly in the sand and desperately needs to take a few lessons from the Dutch model or some of the other good models around Europe. Because honestly, whoever thought it was smart to rely almost entirely on a pure pay-as-you-go system is simply baffling to me. We've had decades of data showing that the massive boomer generation would eventually retire. This isn't a surprise, it's simply a calendar event. And yet, nothing serious has been done. Germany, and many other countries for that matter, now need a big shift. And if there's one thing worth copying from the Dutch system, it's really Pillar 2, the collective invested workplace pension with full transparency. What I really like about this model is that you can track your own pension fund and you can see how much it grows. You can see how many investment returns came back. It's like your own little baby that you grow over the years. Now, of course, you can't switch to this overnight. This will take years and years and years. But at least you can start right now with having a couple of percentage points of the contributions that you pay every year go straight into a fund just like this. That's something that the German government could start with today. Because right now, the system is collapsing. And us young people, we also want a pension when we turn 67, or probably more likely 70 or 75, if things continue this way. Thank you so much for watching. And if you want to dig deeper into media bias and understand how stories are being framed, then definitely check out our sponsor, Ground News. You can get the Unlimited Access Vantage plan with 40% off by using the link in the description or scanning the QR code on the screen. And thank you to our presidents, Jan Schauke, Christian Peter HVD, Daniel Eupedia, Unite Europe, Stefan Europe, and Kiki Loxton. Thank you so much and see you in the next video.